to thank all of you who have come from the rest of Barbados for joining the members of the St. Peter branch at this meeting. I want first to salute the members of my St. Peter branch. I have now been in public life for 28 years. More than almost half of my life I've been in the service of the people of St. Peter. And I would not have been able to carry this heavy load were I not lifted up by some of the most loyal people in the And this evening I want to thank them. I also want formally to say that it is my intention to have my name put in nomination to stand as a candidate for Senate. I say that because it will be the 9th election that I will stand for in this constituency. 9th. And I want, as I say that, also to say, to remind people that I will be running as a junior in age with that who is contesting the election against me. I have to remind you as well that the age of retirement is 67 and the age of retirement for judges is 72. And those who want to write me off, I remind them of those facts, but I think I should also remind them that a man is as old as the woman he sees. If a man is as old as the woman he feels, and I am in the perhaps the best condition that I have been. And I have a lot to live for. And I still have a lot to do in this constituency. It pains me to come to St. Peter to see the abandonment that has taken place in this parish over the last 4 years. In 6 months, the promise of a fishing complex to the people of 6 months has been abandoned. The fishing complex has been abandoned so that Jada and others could go on with that marina project. But Spikestone, one of the pride of my service in this constituency has been to assist in the restoration of Spikestone and bring it back as an important civic center in this country. And the promise of Spikestone as an important civic center is now going to waste. And you see businesses failing in Spikestone, but most of all, no plan for the continued development of Spikestone, no plan to enable it to take advantage of its tremendous potential. Billy Miller and I had a friendly rivalry. I represented the second largest town in Barbados. She represented Bridgetown. But it was a friendly rivalry. And I'm proud of what her representation of Bridgetown has led Bridgetown to be. Recognized as a World Heritage Center. Spikestone has a similar potential. Spikestone has a twinning relationship with Reading in England and with Charleston in South Carolina. And there are people in those places that are anxious to visit Spikestone and help to bring more business to this district. But nothing is being done about it. And you must believe me when I tell you that my passion for representation is undiminished. I have still work to do in this constituency, but I have even more important work to do in Barbados. And you must believe me when I tell you that I am excited and feel passionate about the had the opportunity to take this country from the doldrums in which it now finds itself, to take this country from the drift in its affairs, and to use such training as I have, and to follow the light as God gave me the way to see the way, to bring back this country, and to rescue this country, and to restore this country. I must believe when I tell you that it is not beyond us to bring back Barbados to what it should be and what it can be. And I'm standing, and I seek to stand as a candidate once again, not just to represent St. Peter, but believe me, to represent all of you, and to make this country a better country for my children to live in than I lived in as a Barbadian. I am proud of what I have managed to accomplish in St. Peter as a representative. But this evening I am reminded that representation of the people is not just about projects in Spikestone or Six Bends. It is not just about street lights, although that they are important, or houses. Representation of the people is making sure that the welfare of those that you represent is being continuously advanced. And if there are things that can threaten those people's welfare, that a representative have a duty to focus those threats and to be able to speak intelligently such that the people they represent do not find their well-being overwhelmed by bad governance. And this evening I have come to focus the CLICO issue as it concerns the people that I represent, and as it concerns the ordinary people in Barbados, and as it concerns the future development of this country. There is no bigger threat to the well-being of Barbados and to the perpetuation of good governance in this country than the situation that now exists in relation to CLICO. And people may speak of it in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars, but we must see it as a problem that has put the ordinary man and the ordinary woman in Barbados, their livelihood, in a state of permanent contingency. People do not know whether they're coming or going. Many people now find themselves living on the fringe of genteel poverty. After long careers, money seized up, and they are not sure if their life savings will come back to them at that period in their life when they are at their most vulnerable. And it is not only about the well-being of people. CLICO is the worst example of the abuse of power and the incestuous relationships between politicians and the business community ever in the history of Barbados. And it needs to be exposed. And you know, the most important thing that must be done now are for clear decisions to be made to do right with those who find themselves at the mercy of the actions of David Thompson, Leroy Paris, Dupree, and others in CLICO. We must do, Franklin Stewart, what is right for the people who are the victims of CLICO. We must also use this as an opportunity to make sure that nothing like this ever happened again. The fundamental issues of governance at the corporate level, fundamental issues of governance in the public sector must be addressed and important reforms made such that nobody can ever do in Barbados what Leroy Paris and David Thompson have done to our people. And above all that, transparency must be brought to bear to this matter. We must not be in any doubt as to why this situation has evolved in the manner it has, who is responsible for it, and of the relationships that work hand in hand that has brought us to this sorry state. And this evening I begin on the issue of transparency. CLICO is a DLP debacle. CLICO is a DLP fiasco. And the time has come for us to see it for what it is. CLICO and the crisis of CLICO in Barbados is a culmination of a long incestuous relationship between the Democratic Labour Party and that company. How can we forget that 13 pieces of property by CLICO in Barbados were bought with all of them being exempted from the payment of property transfer tax? And I'm not talking about insurance companies. I'm talking about properties that if you, the ordinary people, had purchased them, you will have to pay taxes on the property transfer. Supermarkets, beach land, agricultural land, 13 properties in one day. David Thompson says no tax must be paid on these transactions. And then you hear now. Hello? 13. And this situation now that obtains in Barbados in respect of what CLICO has done has arisen because Leroy Paris has felt himself empowered by his relationship to David Thompson, and said that he could do anything with people's money and that he was not going to be called to come to it. This is true. How else can we explain a company being told by the supervisor of insurance with David Thompson as the Minister of Finance, stop writing insurance policies? And for the first time in the history of this country, a company told not to write another policy, feeling that it could ignore the supervisor of insurance. He could only feel that he could do that because he had recourse to a higher power, David Thompson. And when you hear now of the way in which David Thompson's law firms organize its affairs, submitted, and these things have to be said with candor, submitted invoices to be paid for services that they did not render. And that CLICO took an invoice for services that they knew were not performed on their behalf and paid $3.something million of your money. These things, these arrangements clearly had to be carefully arranged. And when CLICO got into problems, the Labour Party's position is that the law should have been followed. The law makes it mandatory that if an insurance company has its deficit in its statutory fund, that the supervisor of insurance must, the law says, make an application to the court to seek to put the company under judicial management. But rather than do that, the Democratic Labour Party tried to find all means to shield CLICO from having to face judicial management. And it is precisely in that time, when the law was not being applied, that all the madness that we're now hearing about CLICO making arrangements to pay that man $3.3 million. And also the other things that Paris did at a time when people were not getting back their money from either the mortgage company or CLICO. He and his wife were getting back. And the delayed word that the central bank was agreeing that our money put into the mortgage company, that he could get back his money from that too. These things happen in that interval when an informal arrangement called an oversight committee was put in place. And it is as if, and this has to be said, it is as if the Democratic Labour Party was prepared to do everything to defend and to advance the interests of Paris and CLICO rather than to protect the interests of the people of Barbados. And that's why I say that this is a DLP fiasco. And this is that I have to say that this matter has to be pursued. It doesn't only have to be pursued, as I agree, by further audits to find out about undocumented accounts and to get a further explanation as to what was done. I would like to ask this evening if there are any members of the Democratic Labour Party government who benefited from any loans arranged by Clico. I have to begin to ask these questions. Twice, the Barbados Labour Party would have received election checks from Clico. On 2 occasions, those checks were made public. So you know, without having to tell you what it is that we will have gotten from Clico. But we have never been told what the Democratic Labour Party has received from Clico. And I believe that the time is upon us, when in the interest of transparency in this country, that the Democratic Labour Party must now tell us how much they have gotten from Clico all over the time. And more to the point, I must tell you that I have no confidence in Chris Sinclair as a Minister of Finance, being responsible for having to be the man who preside over the dealings settlement of the Clico matter. For 2 good reasons. He came out of the election as a poor boy, driving a Jaguar that he bought from Leroy Paris. I don't know what has become of the Jaguar. I don't know what has become of it. But it seems to me as though you've got to be concerned that a man who could buy a Jaguar from Paris could now look with dispassion a matter that has been settled where Paris is concerned. But I cannot forget that he was sitting in Parliament when the matter of the nation carrying stirred with Clico rose. The threat from, I call him Rush Limbaugh. Because he jump up and down like Rush Limbaugh. And he just as ignorant as Rush Limbaugh. The threat to all of us to back off. And Mr. Minister of Finance, the situation is so dread that none of my constituents want me now to back off. I do not believe that this country cannot back off as Chris Sinclair says that we should. And bring justice where justice has to be meted out. And where the interests of the poor people have to be served. And I also want to say that this matter must be pursued to its logical conclusion. That not only must there be an audit, and I hear my Shadow Attorney General speaking in terms of a commission inquiry. I can't wait for that. We can't wait for that. We want action now. And this matter must be pursued. And if it must lead to criminal prosecution, so be it. So be it now. And if some of my taxpayers' funds have to be expended in buying Blue Devin to adorn some people, I want this even to say, take my taxpayers' resources and buy Blue Devin and feed them with adults. But this matter cannot go unaddressed like this. It has to be pursued. This is a very serious matter. Hundreds of people, ordinary people, have had suspended livelihoods. People living on pensions don't know where they're going. In the Eastern Caribbean, small people working on hillsides are now exposed to 2 $2 billion. And you don't know where that money come from. For what? For one man to write about the word pump setting in private jets. And live high on the hall. And tell you I is in charge. Taken seriously. The trail must lead to where it can go. And the role of David Thompson as CLICO's lawyer and the role of David Thompson as the Minister of Finance in creating an environment in both instances in which a mess of this order of magnitude could fall on the society and its people, his role has to be put clearly out there for the people to understand. I want to start with it. I will say, I want the Bar Association to speak on this matter and to explain how a law firm could prepare invoices to send to a company to get $3.3 million for services that they did not render, because they must have known that they did not render it because the money was to pass on to Paris. So even as they were writing the invoices, they must have known that they were not intending to collect money for services rendered, but to be used as conduit for what firstly constitutes money laundering. And I want them to explain to us where is their perspective and position on these kind of practices by law firms in this country. And that this must go where it leads in respect of actions taken by the Bar Association of this country. This cannot stand. I also say this to you this evening that Barbados has to do that which is right for the victims of CLICO. That's true. Whenever the citizenry of a country are made the victims of a failure of supervision and regulation and made a victim of what I call tyranny in high places, because the relationship between David Thompson and Paris and all that was wrapped up in CLICO was, in my view, tyranny in high places. Paris felt that he could be a financial tyrant because he had the ears and the support of a Prime Minister. Yes. And whenever the people of a country are made the victims of these things, the government has a duty to make things right with them. People now find themselves in a position where they can't touch their own money, not because of anything that they have done, but because of things that are being done to them. And CLICO now will represent an important test case of the trust that must exist between the government and the governed. And why do I say that? When Prime Ministers speak, when Ministers of Finance speak, when the governors of central banks speak, it excites certain legitimate expectations. When a Prime Minister, two now, have gone on record as telling the people of Barbados that they get back the money, people not only believe it, but some people will go to the bank and borrow against the fact that the money will come back sometime in the future. When two Ministers of Finance also say so, it deepens their confidence in what they should expect. And when the governor of the central bank, as to what two Prime Ministers and two Ministers of Finance have said, people will have to feel comfortable that the money is coming back. So tonight I have to say this. I've seen the report of the judicial manager that is making recommendations to the effect that if their recommendations are followed, at the best it get about 60 cents to the dollar, or alternatively 40-something cents to the dollar. And I have to say this. There must be justice for those who have been made victims of circumstances beyond their control. And people must feel that the word given to them by prime ministers and ministers of finance and government and central bank must count for something. President CLICO has said that this matter will be settled in June. I wanted to start by telling the Democratic Party that the $500,000 they were going to put in a David Thompson Memorial Cricket Competition and the additional money that we were going to put in a David Thompson football competition, that Thompson's role in all this has been so sorry that it will be a desecration now to take up the taxpayers' money and put it in memorials to Thompson. So that the people can get back their money. Secondly, as they said, the Labour Party will stand ready to support any reasonable measure by the government of Barbados to do that which is right by the people who have investments in people. I'm calling upon the government of Barbados to say with clarity no, it is still its intention to give effect to the commitments given by 2 prime ministers. And if it is not the intention, tell us what has changed that now will cause them to break that bond of trust that must exist between the government and the government. It is as fundamental as that. And if the people of Barbados cannot enjoy that confidence and that trust, I will tell you a lot of things are going to happen. If this matter is not resolved, the ordinary people will lose confidence in the financial system. If people money now to go down the drain in this massive extent, Barbadians has always felt that they could put their money in financial institutions and the money will be safe. And this will shake the confidence of the ordinary people of Barbados. It will cause a lot of people heartache and suffering. There are some people who have taken their life savings and put it in CLICO annuities. There are people who have taken their pension, their companies have taken the people's pension funds and put it in CLICO. And there is nothing worse than being at the twilight of your life and do not know whether you can have a pension to live on or not. It's as serious as this. And confidence will be shaken from the start if you do not, if you continue to favor your pal and let us be candid, because this will be an important case of justice. Paris has already taken out or gotten $3.3 million when nobody could have received. And then apparently he and his wife also got out, I think, another $800,000. And then they get $250,000 from Paris, from CLICO Mortgage Finance Company. So Paris has already gotten up $400 million. $4 million. He has already gotten it out at a time when nobody else could get out theirs. You know what this reminding me of? It reminds me of the man who was the captain of the Italian ship. Paris said that the captain of the Costa Concordia jumped off the ship, he ran the ship into the reef. And the first to jump off and let people on the deck. But he won $4 million. And you know some people make another speaking about it here now. You got people in St. Peter who got a little $50,000. they want back their money too. And they want me to say that if I say take up $4 million, that the people will say, if you do what, 50,000, 100,000, must get back their money. And I must go further. When I first spoke about this issue, I spoke about it outside Graniano's house at Connington. And they said that Bart should give back the money, and David Thompson should give back the money too. And I want to say this to the government of Barbados, that the government will have to put in something, but that if what the government has to put up, and if the liquidation or the sale of the assets does not raise the amount, that I believe that the assets of Paris have to be pursued. That Paris assets has been pursued.
You should be arrested all like now before the change everything.
And also, all other persons who benefited in large measure from the financial recklessness that has been Clico. I mean, there can be evidence that their financial recklessness bordered on lawlessness, that they must also be pursued. And I feel that what happened in the transaction involving Thompson Associates was an act of recklessness and lawlessness. And that has to be pursued too. And they buy the people the money. And don't make the taxpayers of Barbados don't have to pay for the wickedness of David Thompson and Leroy Paris. So this matter just can't wait for the Commission of Inquiry. We need action now. And we need action now, as it says, to let the people of Barbados know that this is still a just and fair society. And that one man can abuse the system and get away and profit from his own delinquency, and you, the suffering people, victims of the system, got to solve. That is not the kind of Barbados that the Labour Party will support or live in. So justice must be done for those who have been the victims of this. The third matter that must be done is for us to benefit from the fact that this has happened, although we're not glad it has happened, and to put in place the arrangements such that it cannot happen again. This matter raises a large number of issues about corporate governance, and it cannot be ignored. CLICO's arrangement is an institutional cesspool. A large number of dirty relationships and transactions between entities of the same corporate structure. We also see, and what happened at CLICO, fundamental failings of corporate management and corporate directors. How on God's earth can one man go to an entity and says, be buying, releasing a check? How can it happen? What's happened to the directors? And then you can take up the check at the policyholder's expense, and he and Thompson goes gallivanting all over the world. I mean, you read about these transactions, most of these transactions took place as if the directors did not understand that they had a fiduciary duty to protect the interests of the policyholders and the investors in CLICO. And this matter therefore raises fundamental issues about corporate governance and the role of directors and the way in which they should exercise their fiduciary duty to protect the interests of those whose business they must be protecting. And this must be seen not just as the result of an incestuous relationship between a wicked party and a wicked company, because it's that too. But it must be seen as a fundamental failing of the response of directors and managers of a company who should be doing their duty differently. And we will have to look at the laws in respect to how failure to perform those fiduciary duties should in future be dealt with when there are breaches as significant as this. And it seems clear to me as well that we're going to have to undertake fundamental adjustments in our in laws governing our financial institutions. Now what do you have here? The insurance companies of Barbados are supposed to be regulated, and they are properly regulated. But what has happened is that an insurance company belonging to one company have a relationship with a holding company that is not a regulated holding company. Has no regulations at all that it must follow. An insurance company, under the regulations, must put X amount into certain assets that can be realized or sold to be able to meet the legitimate concerns of policyholders. It's called a statutory fund. You make an investment in an insurance company, at some stage in your life you have to get back the money. The insurance company has to take your money and invest it in things that give you the assurance that when your policy matures, that you will be able to get it. So there are very clear rules governing how an insurance company resources should be used. What has happened here is that CLICO has an entity called CLICO Holding. It is not an insurance company, and therefore it was just something that was created to invest of what assets for people. And therefore, because it is not an insurance company, it is not subject to the regulations that govern the operation of insurance companies. But yet, it was using the financial resources collected from the people by the insurance companies themselves. So it would seem to me that some rules will have to apply to the operation of holding companies that are related to companies that are regulated. And that if they're not made subject to the same regulation, which it can be, at a minimum, they have to be publishing financial statements and audited financial statements so that you, the people, can be made aware, not long after the fact as we've been made aware now, but made aware when these things are happening, the movement of funds from insurance companies to holding companies. You need to be made aware of these things so that you can take your own action and your own self-defense. And you know basically what is happening in the Caribbean? That CLICO has insurance companies and it has to scoop up money from those insurance companies, put in a holding company that bought property in Miami. This property, and also bought a lot of property in Barbados too. They went and bought a quarry in St. Lucia for which they got no kind of permission. They bought a lot of equipment that was standing outside. This is that street for a long time and not doing a stroke of work. They bought a lot of land in Barbados. They bought Rayside. They bought Villanova. I think Villanova is closed. Hello? They bought Sam Lawrence. So all this money was being collected from your insurance policies, scooped out of the insurance policies, put in this company that was not an insurance policy, that was making these unsound investments without your knowledge or without that holding company being subject to any form of regulation. Now that raises fundamental issues of governance. And that has to change. And wherever there is the possibility of interrelationships between companies, new rules have to be brought to bear in the law, so that the people of this country are never again put in a position where one company that is regulated is bled of its resources, and those resources put in another company that is not answerable to anybody, and then we find ourselves in this unholy mess that obtains now in Barbados. We need that done. But there are other issues of governance that have to be dealt with. David Thompson in his manifesto promised that their party was going to, members were going to disclose their assets. It is nothing to laugh at. The members of the Barbados Labour Party and I went through an election with harsh charges of corruption being leveled against us. And we had to endure a lot of nastiness about offshore accounts and all kind of foolishness. How much we have and how much we owe. Well, I was particular to lay before Parliament, although there's no law requiring me to do so, what I own and have on leaving the post of Prime Minister of Barbados. And it was a truthful account. A house, a few percent from a gratuity, and a few shares in a bank, and a few shares in saving bonds, some of which I've had to dispose of to live under the harsh policies of Don't laugh. Don't laugh. I know your pain. I know your pain because I am living under the same strictures as you. But the point I'm making is that myself and Mayor Motley set an example by declaring to our country our financial circumstances. The Democratic Labour Party made you a solemn pledge that they were going to make these financial disclosures as a matter of policy and bring a new form of governance to this country. Not a man move. I need to know what Michael Lashley had then. I need to know what Dennis Noah had then. And what Dennis Noah has now. How do you get it from? I need to know what Adrian Buffett had then. What Adrian Buffett has now. And all the transactions he and Donville may have been involved in. I need to know these things. I need to know about Donville in his financial circumstances. And how much, what he is worth. And how many different apartments that he has and where. And if roads were built to them first and foremost in the constituency, while the other members of the constituency had been driving on rough rocks. I need to know all these things. And I need to hear about Mr. Blackhead and other matters in respect to if he borrowed any money from where and how much. I need to know all these things. This doesn't mean to laugh at. They're not laughing. And the time has come, as I said, for full disclosure. But above all else, need to be told about any relationships, borrowing relationships between members of the Democratic Labour Party and Clico. And why? Because they constitute the government of this country. And a great injustice has been wrought against the people. And a doubt is going to be left to them to bring justice. And you cannot feel that justice will be served if the very people who have to bring, you have to depend upon to bring the justice, have some vested interest in defending the interests of the perpetrators of injustice. And this is the issue here. This is the issue. As I said, I don't feel confident that Chris, having told you to back off, will feel that he should do what needs to be done. I have no confidence that the Central Bank of Barbados will do what needs to be done. Central Bank take up $10 million of our money, I put it in the mortgage finance company, and then let Paris draw out money while others could not. So that we have to be a new governance to this country. And this Clico matter, therefore, is one that we must fight. And I've come this evening to speak about it. I have been quiet for a while until the reports are coming in. But the reports are now coming in. And if there was something rotten in Denmark, there's something very stink in Barbados. And we have a duty to make sure that it is cleaned up. And cleaned up in a way that does things right for the people who are affected, leave us as a better governed society, and also leave us in a situation where we feel that the trail has been led to those who were doing wrong and justice has been served. And this is the mission to which I now commit the Barriers to the Party over to bring justice, to bring do right for those who are now the victims of this financial distress and disorder. To make sure that justice is served, and to make sure that we put in place arrangements that this never happened in this country. That is our mission. And I, this evening, thank St. Peter for allowing me to be here to say these things. And for St. Peter, 28 years, exhilarating years, have been an exhilarating time for me. But I have promises to keep. And miles to go before it's over. And I am therefore asking you this evening, because I'd like to beg for the vote, to go and work even harder than you have in those 28 years where you rose me up as if on the backs, on the shoulders of giants. And I can only pledge to you, in the words of the book of Matthew, that if you hold me up, I shall go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come and tell you of myself that where I am,